Family disputes can make us feel isolated and vulnerable. Maybe you're going through a divorce or a legal dispute about your kids. Perhaps you've spent hours on Google or have even posted anonymously on Facebook to see what others have to say. But are you getting the actual information and support that you're looking for? Our podcast, Legal Lounge, aims to dispel misinformation and downright bad legal information to empower anyone with questions about their family, their children, their finances, their marriage, and the law. As a team focused exclusively on family law matters, we aim to help listeners not only with the information they need, but also with the hope that their situation has a solution. Short disclaimer, please note this podcast is for educational purposes only, and the information should not be relied upon as legal advice or for legal purposes. Welcome back to the Legal Lounge. I'm excited for today's conversation. We've brought in one of our very own here at Modern Legal to talk about processes. Adrienne, tell us more.
Well, I'm Adrienne Dewberry. I'm the firm administrator here at Modern Legal. And yes, I am queen of processes. Yes, everything is a process. From calling our firm to talking to one of our professionals to schedule your consultation, that all in itself is a process itself.
And you handle that with a team, right? Because
yes,
you're not legally trained.
I am not legally trained. I don't per se wear a legal hat, but I am very, very well endowed with the administrative business avenues.
A number of different prospective clients will touch and learn about our firm in a number of different ways. What are some of the different ways that people even find out about us?
So simply, you can do a Google search and we will pop up. You can, from the Google search, you can go to our website. We have a lot of information and resources on our website as well. And from there, you can actually contact our firm directly.
Yeah. And we even share a lot on social media platforms, some of the same links like to our website. And so from your end, you see prospective clients finding us not only from word of mouth or direct referrals, but from all these online platforms.
Exactly. Yes. Facebook, Instagram. So we do have ads that go through there. So sometimes when you're looking at a reel, that reel finishes and you'll see Modern Legal pop up.
Boom. Yes, that's
and
us.
then you just click on that, and then that will take you to our website or one of our channels.
Nice.
For contact.
Either they found us via Google or Facebook or through some other third party, like a direct referral, and they call in and they say, "Hey, can I get my divorce done yesterday?" How does that go?
So we gently explain to them that there is a process.
The processes, yes.
The process, everything. So we will say, the first step would be to schedule a consultation with the attorney. So that way we can dive in and see exactly what's going on and how we can help.
Yeah.
And then, you come into the consultation itself with the attorney.
Yeah. And I think that's something really important to point out is that there is the process of scheduling the consultation with the attorney because you can't give the prospective client legal advice, right?
Correct. Yes. And a lot of times when I am on the phone, they do ask legal questions.
Yeah.
And I have to say, hey, that will be discussed in detail during the consultation with the attorney.
So you're not just being difficult.
Not at all. It is actually against the law for me to give legal advice since I am not an attorney, a licensed attorney.
And that's really important, especially for our listeners, that, when someone at a law firm is saying, I can't do the consult right here, right now, or I can't give legal advice, or I can't answer that question because it is a legal question, it's not because we're trying to be difficult. It's because there are laws that apply, and we don't want to get in trouble, similar to how I'm sure you don't want to get in trouble, right?
Exactly. And I will tell the prospect, hey, that is legal advice. The attorney is better suited to answer that question for you.
Most definitely. And so then, of course, we need all this information for the consultation itself. I know you have sent out to our prospective clients. It's a whole online intake form. Do you feel like sometimes that proves to be a difficult step?
Sometimes with the timeliness of it, I would say. But that information is very important for the law firm.
Yeah.
Number one, it is to rule out any conflict of interest. That is the most important piece.
Yeah, and a conflict of interest, just for the listener to understand, is we can't represent both husband and wife in a divorce
Correct.
for obvious reasons, right?
Correct.
We can only represent the interests of one side. So just having that information on the intake, make sure that we're not entering into a conflict.
Correct. Yeah. We want to rule that out in the beginning before we waste anyone's time.
Yeah.
Because everyone's time is valuable.
Yeah. And so then after you get the intake, done the conflicts check, you've scheduled the consultation, what are some of the next steps that a prospective client would see?
So the next step, once we schedule the consultation, we receive intake form, rule out any conflict of interest. We do the consultation. That's when the prospect will come into our office, sit down with the attorney, or we can handle it virtually,
Yeah.
either by phone or Google Meet, which is like a video conference like Zoom if you're not familiar with that. That is what we use. So then we do the consultation. And that itself is a process.
Yeah.
You know, you sit down, you talk about some intimate details of your life with an attorney. And that way you develop a trust with that individual,
Yeah.
with that attorney, and someone that is going to be your advocate through this process.
Yeah. That is so important to point out because I think a lot of people, especially if they've never had an interaction with the judicial system, maybe they've never even had a speeding ticket or even a traffic ticket. I've had way too many. But
I'll plead the fifth.
but some people, this is their first time dealing with an attorney, dealing with anything legal, really.
Yeah.
And so it can seem intimidating to sit down with an attorney because, and I've heard it, like people are like, oh, so a lawsuit has to be filed. Oh, the opposing side will find out immediately. And that's not the case,
Not
right?
at all. Not at all. And I like to touch on that, you know, to a certain degree, not getting into the legal advice, if you will. But the prospects that do call that are very green, I'll say, that are not familiar with the legal system, that have not had, you know, traffic infractions and things like that. They are totally new to it. So I sit there, I say, hey, you called the right place. This is going to be our process. I'll explain, you know, the consultation, the intake process to them, and then kind of move forward with, you know, at that point after the consultation, that's going to be between you and the attorney, you know, moving forward. And it's not that you're going to be pressured to make any decision you don't want to make. We just want to educate you on the course of those decisions and what those outcomes might mean.
Amen. Oof. I've said it better myself. You're hired. Oh, wait, you already work here.
Thanks. Yay, I got a job, guys.
Yay. But that's so important because, you know, when I'm, as the attorney sitting in the consultation, I've had prospective clients who are like, oh, okay, so now we have to sue. And it's like, pause. What do you want to do? What's the current situation that you found yourself in? Maybe we're in the middle of a school year. Let's not do anything until the kids are done with the school year. Or maybe we're in the middle of the holiday season and we don't want to disrupt holidays, especially if, you know, you have extended relatives coming in town or you're going and traveling. And there's so many circumstances that come up where, to your point, our focus during the consultation is to give you the tools, the education, not to push you into retaining us, not to push you into filing a lawsuit, not to push you into divorcing from your spouse. We're not the ones who are going to divorce you. The parties are going to decide whether or not divorce occurs at the end of the day, right? Because they can pursue if one party wants a divorce. We're here to do the paperwork and guide our clients through the process.
And we try to make that process as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
But a lot of times with that process, it also depends on the individuals involved in that process.
Yeah. The consultation is such an integral process. As you were stating a moment ago, that, you know, it's when the prospective client and the attorney start developing a relationship. Hopefully it's a trusting relationship. It's an intimate relationship because, yeah, it's about family issues. It's people discussing what is most important to themselves, meaning their finances, their children, their family, friend groups, the list goes on. And yeah, it's very important to know that not every family situation is going to be just like the other story that they heard from their friend or their cousin or their other family member. So when a prospective client comes in and sits down with me, yes, they may have wanted to file a lawsuit yesterday, right? And they want to be divorced tomorrow, even if they haven't been separated a whole year as required by North Carolina general statute. But at the very least, it's okay. I hear your story. I understand where you're coming from. I feel your feelings in a way, but let's figure out what is the best path forward for you. And honestly, I mean, I run into it more so than not. It's usually not filing a lawsuit right away. It's figuring out, okay, can we do some type of negotiation first?
Especially in the consultation, that's your time to strategize how you want to approach the case. And also developing a roadmap, if you will.
Yeah.
To a road to a resolution, and what all that looks like. So the attorney may say, hey, let's not file this just yet. Let's do these things first.
Yeah. And I think that it's because a lot of individuals, again, since they haven't touched the judicial system until they're in our office, they don't realize all the tools that are available in family law.
And there are a lot. And a lot of tools, a lot of resources that a lot of our prospects that they simply just don't know about.
Yeah. And actually, just to touch on a few, just because I've been trying to find more resources for our clients, we have, they call them CDFA, Certified Divorce Financial Analysts. It's not a financial advisor, kind of like a financial advisor, but they are there just for the divorce process, and they are a financial analyst. So they'll analyze how the money can be moved and what repercussions that is for different spouses, whether it's just property or income and financial needs to be covered. Separate from that, we have certified divorce real estate experts. That's a mouthful, CDREs. There are experts out there that literally only do the sale of the former marital residence. That's the only thing they touch on. They don't try to sell a new house to the now separated spouses. They may, in a different business, buy or sell properties for other individuals. But when it comes to a divorce situation, they only focus their practice on selling divorced people's houses, right? We have divorce coaches, kind of like life coaches, but to help someone through the divorce process or the separation process, or maybe even to figure out if they want a divorce. We also have therapists. There's this form of therapy called discernment therapy, and it's a specific type of therapy that helps individuals who are thinking about separation and divorce. And yes, it is a form of couples counseling. They go to discernment therapy to figure out if they are, in fact, better suited to part ways than stay together, regardless if they have children. And these are just some of the resources that are out there that we know about as divorce professionals and family law professionals that our prospective clients, when they're sitting across from us in the conference room, that they just don't know exist.
And that is one of the goals in the consultation, to bring light to all these resources. Especially real estate, speaking of that's a very complicated process.
Yeah.
And with our professionals that deal only with, properties or homes that are in a divorce, they make that process a lot less complicated for you.
Yep.
So that way you're not thinking of this, that, and the other thing. They streamline it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that is essential, especially in a situation of, divorce where emotions run high.
Yes.
And you can't put one foot in front of the other some days.
Exactly. And when emotions are high, people can't think straight. So let me say that very clearly in this episode. If you are in a high conflict family law situation, I'm sorry, but you just can't think straight. And it actually has nothing to do with how educated you are, what your job is, what your specific family situation is. It actually has all to do with biology. And although I'm not a scientist or a biologist, I will say you just can't think straight when you're under this type of stress. And it's a very unique form of stress when you're going through a separation or divorce. What I have read from social scientists is that it's similar to the grief of losing a loved one, from a loved one passing away. And think about it for a second. Grief is hard to deal with, period. Especially if you've ever lost someone or if you've lost a dear pet. Like, grief is hard to deal with in general. Combine that state of grief and trying to process grief, if you're even ready to process that grief. But oh wait, now you're having to deal with, where am I going to live tomorrow? When am I going to see my kids?
All the hard decisions.
Right? And so I say this very nicely, but to all the individuals out there who feel overwhelmed by thinking about separation and divorce, that's okay. Everyone is overwhelmed. And that's exactly why Modern Legal is here, why there are good family law attorneys in town, why there are awesome support professionals such as yourself, and all these other resources to help someone through the separation divorce process. Because again, we cannot think straight when we're going through this form of grief and mental anguish.
Because, I mean, you're being pulled in all different directions. So how can you focus on one thing?
Oh, and you still have to go to your job.
Yeah, you
right?
still have to go to your job. You still have to take care of your children.
Yep.
You still have to live your day-to-day life on top of what you're dealing with, as far as the turmoil of the emotion that this all brings.
Yeah. And I think that's one great thing. Speaking of processes, is yes, we have this process to schedule a consult, and we have this process to coming in and doing the consultation. And then we have this process for figuring out the roadmap that you were referencing a moment ago. But that's because these processes keep our clients grounded and stabilized so that our clients can trust in us, that we're taking a lot of that burden on our shoulders so our clients don't have to.
And I think that is where we shine.
Yeah.
Because we're not here just to get money or anything like that. We are actually here. We care.
Yeah.
We want to help. We want to see everyone succeed.
Yeah.
Even though your life may look a little bit different. Well, let's take these challenges and let's form it into where you want to go, in your next chapter of your life. Yeah. Because our team is very passionate in that sense.
Yeah, you warmed my heart. Building relationships is a natural part of life. But how does the law affect those relationships? Do you want to marry your significant other, but have cold feet from the many divorce horror stories out there? Are you preparing for a custody battle against your ex? That is where Modern Legal comes in. We offer education and knowledge about the law when it affects the relationships near and dear to your heart. To learn more about how family law affects your family, book a consultation with an attorney of our Modern Legal team by visiting our website, emailing us, or calling us at 704-286-6302. Check out the information about Modern Legal Services at modernlegalnc.com. Family law is not for the faint of heart, and I say that as a divorce professional and a family law professional, but there is something to be said, and I love quoting Tiffany, one of our other attorneys on this, where I think it's in her bio actually on our website, where she says everything comes back to the family.
Yes.
And if we think about that for a second, it's so true. It's, when you've had some of the most memorable, fun times, you think of family times, or you think of friends that are basically family. Whenever you've had despair or grief, it's generally related to who you consider family. Yeah. And so when we are sitting in the sphere where the family and the law are colliding, one of my taglines,
yes,
the family and law collide, it's one of these spheres where I like to say that in a way my client is welcoming me into their family. And I have a duty and a calling, if you will, and a respect I have to give my client in their situation. So yeah, it's not just about taking the money. It's about figuring out, to your point a moment ago, what is best for their next chapter. So speaking of that, we've talked about how the consultation is a process. Retaining an attorney then is a process.
That's a whole separate process as well.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about, prospective client has decided to retain an attorney, preferably with Modern Legal, but yeah. What is the process that we employ?
So once we conclude the consultation and the prospect wants to elect our services, I will then draft a fee agreement. I will go over that word for word, making sure everything is clearly explained and your expectations of a client and then our expectations of the law firm are solidifying our relationship, if you will. And then all of the monies that come with that and solidifying all of that. So once we get through the retention process, and that is signing of the fee agreement, providing a security deposit, then we move forward with hitting the ground running.
Yeah.
Whether that be the prospect, we're at a point where we need to file a lawsuit. Our team is ready to hit the ground running at any point to do so. Or we are ready to talk with the other party, or if that party is represented, we talk with that attorney in hopes of negotiating terms to
Mm,
keep things out of court. Because obviously, when cases go to litigation, when they go to court, it's uncharted waters
yeah.
most of the time. And financially speaking, there's not really a cap, if
Yeah.
you will. So it's very important. And I go back to that strategy that we talk about, during your consultation, being very strategic.
Yeah.
So that will help,
Yeah.
in the beginning of getting started with the process,
Yeah.
depending on where the prospect is, of course, in their
Yeah.
certain
Yeah.
process,
And
personal
I'm going to
process.
touch on that a little further, just because, yeah, that fee agreement is defining the financial relationship between a client and the law firm, any law firm, really. And I have had the client that has said to me, money's not a problem, or we have unlimited financial resources. And I'll be honest, I do believe my client. I'm not saying they're lying, but on the flip side, there's always a limit. There's always a
Always.
limit. Even when we were sending a person to the moon, there was a limit on what NASA could spend, right?
Right.
There's always a limit, and I say that because I think it's imperative that attorneys and clients understand what is the cost benefit analysis. So yes, you could definitely pay me $40, $50, $60,000 to pursue the equity in a house. And if the equity in the house is $800,000, all right, go ahead, pay me that amount. Cost benefit wise, you're still netting way ahead. Whereas if the equity in the house is like $20,000, $30,000 that you're entitled to,
Yeah.
that gets a little bit trickier. Or maybe it's we bring in an attorney that has a lower hourly rate. Or maybe it's we try different strategies to save on costs. And yes, I get it, especially if you're like the opposing side is very unreasonable. You want to throw everything at the wall, right? To get what you're entitled to. I get it completely.
Mhm.
And I will go to court if I need to.
Yes.
I personally like it.
She will.
I do, and I will. But is it always best for the family all the way around? Both from a financial perspective, from a time perspective, because especially here in Mecklenburg County, you're not filing for, a distribution of the house tomorrow and then getting a court hearing next week. You're not getting a final trial for quite a while, a number of months, possibly years.
Yeah.
And
Very
I want to impart that education because if we can save you the cost of time, that also saves you the cost of money, the cost of emotional
Your sanity.
detriment. Yes, sanity.
Mhm.
So it's trying to factor all of that. And so although you say I'm focused on the fee agreement, making sure you understand the financial relationship, I as the attorney am thinking beyond just the fees.
Exactly. And that's what sets modern legal apart, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't focus on fees. We don't, we are focused on the individual.
Yeah.
The livelihood of that individual and
Yeah.
them going into their next chapter.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what I will shift the conversation on now, because I know this is a passion of yours because you love your processes.
Yes.
And you love when not only clients, but also us attorneys, yes, we get in trouble too,
Mhm.
to follow those processes. What happens if a process is not followed?
Once a process is not followed, there is a ripple effect
Oh,
that
ripple effect.
happens. And this ripple effect can affect many different aspects of a client case, client account. It's just, or just the operations.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to our initial process of a prospect contacting our firm. If they go on our website, they fill out a form. Our process as a team is to receive that, then make contact as soon as possible. If we miss that step, then this prospect who has reached out to us is wondering why we're not calling back.
Mm-hmm.
We must not care,
Mm-hmm.
and that itself causes a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so I'd go to the consultation. If we miss a step there, whether we didn't receive the consultation intake form, which has valuable information on it, that could be a ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We go further into we've retained the attorney and we miss a step there.
Mm-hmm.
Say we miss an initial step, it's going to cause a ripple effect down the line.
Yeah. Yeah. Because especially if a client in that specific example thinks that they have provided the security deposit, thinks they have signed the fee agreement, and they're waiting on the call from the attorney. But then on the attorney side, the attorney's like, I don't even know if the case is open yet. And suddenly you have that missed opportunity of time. And yeah, generally we catch it very quickly within like a day.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe a day is all the difference for certain legal strategies and legal forms of relief that we're trying to help the client on. So to your point, yes, I always find it interesting that, and this is across the board, that maybe we find a process silly or too complicated, but it is in place to help protect everyone involved and to create clear expectations and obligations.
Mm-hmm. Processes are developed for a reason.
Yes.
And that is really just to make the business more efficient.
Yep.
To make things run a little bit more smoothly.
Yeah. To grease those wheels.
Yes.
Both for the business to operate, but more importantly, for the business to operate efficiently so we could better serve our clients.
Yes.
You're like 100%.
Yes, you said it correct. Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. And so as firm administrator, what would you say is, from your perspective, one of the most important things that our team does for our clients?
We're there. We're present.
Yep.
We listen to understand. We don't listen to respond.
Yep.
Even though you may say something and we say the attorney may already know the answer.
Yeah.
They're not going to speak on that. They're going to hear you out because every situation, especially in family law, is different.
Yeah.
Even if it has that same heading.
Yeah.
All the inner workings are always different because you're dealing with different individuals with different personalities.
Yep. And different circumstances.
And, different circumstances, different past traumas.
Yep. And I'm going to go ahead and just do a plug here, a little disclaimer for the attorneys. Sometimes we will come across as insensitive. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yes.
We come across as not being empathetic. And if you're watching the video of this, you could see Adrienne's look at me. I am guilty as charged. And it's not because attorneys don't care, because to Adrienne's point,
Absolutely.
we really do. We are listening. We care. Our brains are just thinking through all the different parameters of the law.
The legalese.
Yeah, the legalese.
Well,
exactly.
and you're focused on that process, if you will, to give the best outcome for your client possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to turn on your legal hat and you can't turn on your empathetic or anything. You have to just straight line, okay, this is a legal way. This is our strategy. Emotions out of it now, because when you're in court and you're in front of the judge doesn't see emotion.
Yeah.
They see what's on a piece of paper in black and white.
Yeah.
So the attorney at some point may seem like they removed all emotion, but it is for a reason.
Yes.
And that is a strategy.
Yeah. That's part of the strategy and
process,
part of,
if you will.
A process. Those processes. Yes. And I love the way you say that, because there have been times, and I'll admit, and I'm sure some of my former clients, they'll be like, yep, Theresa's done that. Or I'll turn to my client and I say, I understand. I hear you. I'll give you a few more minutes to vent. But I'm going to be brutally honest. I don't care. And it's not because I don't care as a person. It's because I don't care as a lawyer, because it doesn't impact your legal situation. I want to focus on what impacts your legal situation so that you can get the legal relief you're entitled to start that next chapter, so you can work on all those emotions and all those other things that you hold near and dear.
Exactly. And I will note, it's not always easy for the attorney to turn off the emotion.
Well, that's true too. Mm-hmm.
It really isn't, because I see a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And yes, when it may feel like, okay, your attorney's not emotionally involved in my case, it's for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that reason is for your advocacy.
Yes. I couldn't agree more. So, Adrienne, thank you so much for joining us here in the Legal Lounge.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, we'll have you again. Don't worry.
Yay.
Oh, yeah. And until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our discussion. To learn more about me and the Modern Legal team, go to our website, modernlegalnc.com. or check out the links in our show notes to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also call us at 704-286-6302. If you have been intrigued by the conversation and would like us to continue our discussions, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. See you next time.